Everything you learned in history class was a lie. Well, maybe not everything, but they skipped the best parts. Introducing Stupiracy, where stupidity meets conspiracy. Ever heard of the Olympic marathon that nearly killed its runners? Or the time a pope put another pope's corpse on trial? Join me, Scott Rizzuto, and Tim McKernan as we uncover the most outrageous historical moments and mind-blowing conspiracies you won't believe actually happened. Tune into Stupiracy for your weekly dose of historical absurdity. Available wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, history is dumb, but laughing at it is smart.
And now, live from the TCL broadcast studios, it's Joe Souchere and Patrick Royce with Sports Talk.
Good afternoon, everybody. Tom Chorske filling in for Patrick Royce, and I guess Joe, because usually Joe's here too. So
yeah,
I got the trading wheels off a little bit here, Manny, but you're gonna have to hold the back of the bike.
I got you covered, buddy.
Right on.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks. Obviously driving over, and I've been out today. And has anyone given you the old cold enough for you? You've probably been in here all day. So
I've gotten that a few times via text in the last couple hours and this morning as well. But yeah, it's freezing.
It's chilly out there, but we knew it was coming. They gave us a big warning, and that's just how it is. How about the Christmas deal? How's that? It
was good. I kind of did a double dipper. Did Christmas Eve with my family and did Christmas Day yesterday with the girlfriend's family. So it was quite a busy time, but everybody got gifts that they loved and were excited about, including myself. And so it was a nice couple days.
Over the river and through the woods, or what?
Yeah. It was exciting. It was busy. But everybody got to sort of get together and enjoy each other's company and exchange some nice gifts, and it was a good time. How was yours?
It was fine. Same thing. We've got I've got two teens and a preteen, so we got three kids right in kind of the wheelhouse of having to deliver some good stuff for Christmas. The tree was well covered underneath, so
okay.
I think we were successful there. Everyone seemed real happy with the way things played out as the gifts were opened. It's a fun time to see some of the things that kids get, and they definitely get real excited about. And
yeah, my nephew got the new LeBron James shoes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He was and he's 10 years old, and it's like the one thing that he wanted.
Yeah.
All year. Like he basically told my sister, his mother, and my mother, his grandmother, he basically said, I don't care if you get me nothing else.
Right.
And he was saying this like back in the summer. I don't care if you get me anything else. I don't need anything else. I just want the new LeBrons.
Right.
And of course he got other stuff too, and he got the LeBrons, and he was excited. He was ecstatic.
Shoes were big at our house too.
Yeah.
They weren't LeBrons. They were these Adidas, I think, shoes that are kind of, are cool to walk around in or something, latest and greatest. And my kids are probably laughing at me while they're not listening, but that I don't know the type of shoe they are. But they look cool and they look comfortable, and they were one of the things that was that they were really happy about. Speaking of NBA gifts or related gifts, our older son, and I've talked about this, he's quite into the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
He's a hockey player, but he's quite into the NBA. He got a Steph Curry bobblehead.
Nice.
And he's into the Golden State Warriors quite a bit. He kind of likes those front runner teams. He doesn't like to lose. So
he likes the teams that win.
He likes the teams that win. Yeah. He's not really pulling for the underdog. But the Steph Curry bobblehead, he has the towel, and he's chewing on it in his mouth.
Oh,
it's
okay.
It's pretty detailed
nice.
thing. It's kind of fun. Yeah. Yeah. So
awesome.
And as a hockey guy, I like it. I've been kind of enchanted by the NBA a little bit, but we sit here in hockey season, and we're going to have some hockey guests today. In a little bit, we're going to give Billy Robertson a call, and he's the WCHA Commissioner. He was a longtime executive with the Minnesota Wild, and he's worked for the Anaheim Ducks, and he's had a pretty and the Timberwolves. So storied career in sports around Minnesota and actually around some other leagues. So it'd be kind of nice to catch up with him. He's done some innovative things with the WCHA because he needed to, And I think there's some things that are on the table that are also kind of interesting, intriguing to talk about. So
nice.
Yeah, and I thought we could touch on NFL playoffs too as we approach that. And it looks like the Vikings are gonna get a bye, I guess, hopefully. And
yeah, I think they could take care of business by beating Chicago on Sunday, which they should be able to do. The Bears are not a very good team, and it's the last game of the year for them, so they should be able to lock up that second seed. It could get dicey if they were to somehow lose and then Carolina wins, and then they're not guaranteed to have a second first round bye yet, but it's pretty likely that they'll get one. One
thing I would like to at least talk about that when we get to it is what they can do with that bye week and why it's so why it's important. And
for sure,
there's definitely obviously the obvious advantage of is getting healthy and resting, but there's probably some things they can do with educating themselves on the rest of their opponents and things like that. But also on the docket is Brian Schoenborn, and probably not a household name for people, but he's an attorney and a longtime kind of sports attorney, and he is heading up the efforts to bring Hockey Day Minnesota to St. Cloud, which looks to be that event keeps getting I think better and better, and I'm part of it. It's kind of sponsored heavily by both the Minnesota Wild and Fox Sports North. So I get to be a part of it. It's a lot of fun to be a part of it. It's a cool thing. It's, for people that wouldn't know maybe, but it's a pretty renowned thing around the country, both as an outdoor sporting event and then within the sports TV or regional sports network industry. It's viewed as a huge event to pull off, and it's how many hours of content for the single sports network. But
I've been a part of one.
Yeah.
I was a part of one. My first radio job out of college was up in Roseau, Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
And it was in 2008, January 2008. I think that was probably one of the earlier, it might have only been like the second or third Hockey Day Minnesota.
Sounds like
And
second,
it was on the Rainy River over in Baudette. And it was Roseau taking on Blaine. And they skated to a 1-0 Roseau victory in about 35 below wind chill. And I was right out there doing the radio play-by-play.
Well, then
interesting experience.
That's
to say the
it's
least.
Good to know you've been a part of one. You can maybe you can chime in with Brian and
for sure
share that experience a little bit, because I'm sure they're hoping that it doesn't get too much colder than that or this, because that can be tough. But hey, Mother Nature or Father Winter, whichever one it is, can have their way.
We got Jess Myers coming up at 3:30.
Yeah.
He's going to join us in studio, actually. And then we got Rich Gannon at 4:15 to talk a little NFL and Vikings and things like that. And then Ben Gessling of the Star Tribune is going to be joining us for Talking Purple at 5:15. We usually have Ben on the ride with Royce on Mondays, but since yesterday was Christmas, we had no live show, so we're going to have Ben on today as well. So.
Yeah, and then on the ride in, I was listening and hearing, and I think I heard that bit, the practical joke that the neighbor was playing, with the lights. I think I heard that the original broadcast of it.
Okay.
Or I mean, I guess it was over the course of a few different call-ins, because this guy carried it out for a long time, and one I thought, well, that's a tough act to following the best of Garage Logic and all the best calls and best commentary, but
you know what? I think you're up to the task.
Yeah, well,
I think you're up for it.
If it takes talking about practical jokes, I got a couple from my career we could maybe talk about.
Okay,
we could actually, one of them I'll just tell you right now. Because it was pretty funny, the joke that neighbor was playing. And so NHL players, or hockey players in general, are kind of pranksters, right? So they're known to kind of do some goofy things to their teammates. And the funniest one, most funny one I ever saw at first was when I got to the NHL. Me and a teammate named Russ Courtnall, we were in Montreal, and we were both sitting out, and I don't remember if we were both hurt or I was scratched and he was hurt. But anyway, he said, come on, the players went out on the ice. He said, come on down, I want to go get this guy. And he proceeded to detach all his buttons on his button-down shirt, and we reattached them at different spots.
Oh, my gosh.
So when the guy came out after the game to put on his shirt,
He's like trying to
he starts
fiddle
buttoning
around
up,
with
right?
it. Yeah, and
so it's off and it's crooked. So what's his first thought? His first thought is, "Oh, I screwed it up.
Yeah,
I got to go back."
And so he's
he
redoing
it, and it's not getting
awesome.
It's not getting any better.
Oh, I love it.
We're over in the corner.
And it's probably getting worse.
It's getting worse, yeah, because he was doing it the closest way the first time, and then so he can't quite figure out what's going on,
that's
just
fantastic.
like this other guy. And then the second thing we had done is we had taken his zipper, and you know how every zipper universally has a little open square at the end for whatever purpose, but we had taken like dental floss and tied a little knot in that opening, and then pulled it all the way down and tucked it in, and then we sewed it so he could see the zipper and he could feel it and he could touch it. But when he was trying to get it out of there and zip it back up, it was fastened down because we had sewn it. So we watched this guy for, I don't know, 5 minutes try to figure out his outfit, and that was a pretty good one. That was a pretty good one.
That's pretty good. That's awesome.
Well, when we come back, we will get Billy Robertson on the phone, and we'll talk a little WCHA and kind of some of the provocative things he's doing with his league and some potential things that I think the future could hold. So when we get back, we'll be with Billy Robertson. This is Tom Chorske and Manny on The Ride with Royce. Tom Chorske back on The Ride with Royce, filling in for Patrick today. Our next guest is Billy Robertson, known by his friends and maybe many of you as Billy Rob. Probably doesn't need too much of an intro for those around town here, but as a refresher, we'll just say that longtime sports executive, spent 11 seasons with the Minnesota Wild before he became the commissioner of the WCHA, and he's also been with the Anaheim Mighty Ducks back when they were the Mighty Ducks, and he's been with the Timberwolves as well. So that gives you a little background, and that's probably not even all of it, I know, Billy, but that should be good enough. How's the third season going in the WCHA?
Well, it's going great, Tom, and happy holidays to you and all your listeners out there.
Likewise. Thanks. Hey, I was thinking about how you've already done some things, and I want to talk about your fingerprint and how you've kind of changed the game format for the WCHA, and you're looking at some schedule, maybe flex or maybe letting schools figure out what would work best for them. We've got an on-campus playoff format and potential expansion and a super final. So let's start with the changing the format. And this is great. And it's, I don't think. Well, here's my thought. The NHL has done it over the years. They've changed their rules. They've done overtime and they've done shootouts, and so they've done a lot of things progressively to kind of grow their game or refreshen it or appease to the fans. How's it working for you? Talk about that.
Well, I think more than anything, in my first 3 years as commissioner, or first 2 years, I should say, that we would look at games and there'd be a whole bunch of ties, and I would leave rinks and arenas and go, geez, that isn't how I want to see this end. I want some entertainment. So we determined as a conference, both coaches and administrators, along with our WCHA staff, to implement a system where we would have obviously 5 minutes of overtime, which is always the case in the NCAA in their rules and regulations. But then we went to, after that, if it's still tied, it would be 3-on-3 in overtime, and then we would go to a shootout. And it's been fabulously received all across the WCHA and I think in college hockey. And I do believe, Tom, that over the course of time here, and I think probably as early as next year, you're going to see mandated overtime procedures all throughout Division I college hockey, which I think is great. So every conference is playing by the exact same rules, because it is confusing. Some conferences have adapted to it, and some have not. But we're one that wanted to be progressive and proactive, and I like that. And then the other piece, as you alluded to earlier, was the fact that we are now an on-campus model for our tournament, and the debate was out there for a long time. What is the best system to have your championships? And we thought bringing it back to the on-campus format, where we brought it back to the student athletes and to the fans of those schools, where they could have some home ice advantage and really build up through our playoff system in the WCHA, and that has been so well received as well. So I'm liking the changes we made, those two in particular, the overtime procedures and the on-campus tournament format, and I think the WCHA has a great future ahead of itself.
Yeah, you've certainly, I think, righted. Not that the ship was ever off, but it went through that transition when some teams left and they had to kind of get their footing, and you seem to have done that. So congratulations to you for that. And we should mention that the two Minnesota teams in the WCHA are Bemidji State and Minnesota State. And Minnesota State currently ranked in the top 10 in the nation. So nice feather in your cap there. What about this super final? Because this super final idea is something that I had the very same thought, and when I heard that it was being bounced around, and not that it's inevitable, but it's a great thought. I was like, I came up with that, but I'm sure you probably came up with it before me.
Well, I call it the big idea, and I've talked to the NCAA about it. I've talked to other college commissioners, and it really, for your listeners, it's real simple that the championship, in particular in the western part of the United States, would be played in one campus venue, or it could be a campus venue, but it could also be a neutral site venue.
Right.
And we'd have the WCHA participate, the Big Ten, and the NCHC, and all have their championship games go out through one day. And I think it would be fabulous received. It would bring back a lot of memories of Frozen Fours here. If it was in Minnesota at the XL Center or some other venue, it would be a lot like that kind of feel, or the old Final Five that the WCHA put on that sold out for so many years. And I do think if you had 3 championship games in one venue over the course of the day, starting at noon, 4, and 7:30, it would be a fabulous way to celebrate the great sport of college hockey.
Yeah, it really would. And you kind of get, as a hockey fan and a college hockey fan, and especially for listeners that are college hockey fans that remember those or have attended those, I'm sure they can imagine or think about how much fun that would be to be over in St. Paul. You didn't say it, but it might be in St. Paul, and I don't know what other venues you would consider moving it around to, but certainly you give it a go in St. Paul, and it would be a lot of fun. So what are the chances, do you think, that might come to fruition?
Well, I think down the line, I don't think this will happen in the next couple of years for sure, Tom, but I do believe that over the course of time, as people struggle to draw fans to their tournaments, and we've seen some cases of that when you have teams playing in neutral sites and there's no affinity to those programs, and they don't travel well, that gets hard. And this somewhat eliminates the fact that you're going to have just the best teams in the western part of the U.S. playing in one venue one day to decide it all with automatic berths to the NCAA tournament. I think that would just be fantastic for fans overall.
It really would. It would just, you'd get hockey fans, not just fans from those schools or programs. And let's just touch on expansion, because I think it's speculated just in college hockey in general. You hear rumors, or you just hear a little scuttlebutt on teams that potentially could pop up. What does that look like to the WCHA, or what can you share with us about that?
Well, and you and I have talked offline before. I'm open to the idea that we could someday have more teams in the WCHA. How that progresses remains to be seen. One thing that's really good is the NHL and the NHLPA are working on feasibility studies with several colleges that are interested in potentially becoming Division I college hockey programs. And what they're doing is looking at the costs, looking at the arena situations on these different campuses. And I think there's going to be an appetite for that over time. I think it's going to grow slow. And I think Arizona State was the first school to kind of dip their toe into the water, and they're playing an independent schedule currently, and I'm still very interested in Arizona State and where they fall. But I would say this, we really need to take care of the 60 teams that are playing Division I college hockey right now, and my main focus is on the 10 schools inside the men's WCHA that include 2 schools in Alaska, 2 in Minnesota, 4 in Michigan, 1 in Ohio, and 1 in Alabama. And that's a wide footprint.
It's a big footprint.
And we have lots of work to do within our own conference just to be successful on and off the ice. But in saying that, I would be open to potentially what's going to happen down the road. I know that there's a school out there, Oakland University outside of Detroit, that's looking at the potential possibility of adding both women's and men's hockey to their repertoire of sports. They're known for being a basketball school. They play a tough Division I schedule, play a lot of Big Ten teams and a lot of Big East teams, but they're interested in the hockey situation. And there's other schools that are looking at potentially adding, but no one has dipped their toe in saying we're ready to go and we have the funding in place. And that's really the trigger, funding and an arena. And I do see over time we're going to have more teams playing Division I men's college hockey.
Well, that's good. That's what us hockey fans all want to hear. Well, Bill, thanks for joining us today and talking about the WCHA and some of the things that have gone on and some of the things that might go on. And we'll keep an eye on our, I guess, fairly locally, Minnesota State Mavericks, ranked number 7 in the nation, I think, right now. And congratulations on your successes and good luck in the future.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for all your support, and good luck to your daughter playing hockey tonight. I know they have a big game in the Minnesota State High School League schedule.
Yep, they got a tournament starting. Wow, you're on top of it. Okay, Bill, thank you. That's Bill Robertson, Commissioner of the WCHA. When we come back, we will continue Hockey Talk. I'll be with Jess Myers.
All right. The Sports Talk will be back here in just a few moments, but now it is time to head out east. Once again, for the Your Money Now report, it comes to us courtesy of our friends at Federated Insurance. Here is Mr. Bruce Vail.
Well, stocks closed a bit lower to start the week as a decline in Apple shares weighed on the broader market. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 7 points, closing at 24,746. Apple responsible for the entire loss there. The Nasdaq Composite dropped 23 points. The S&P 500 lost 2 points. Home prices continued to rise in many areas around the country, and you can pin a lot of that on the shortage of homes for sale. The S&P Case-Shiller National Index for home prices rose 0.7% in October from September's level, and it's up more than 6% for the year. In Minneapolis, prices were down 0.1% from September, but still up 5.4% compared to a year ago. General Mills will start 2018 by rolling out 4 new cereals. The company is launching Blasted Shreds shredded wheat in Cinnamon Toast Crunch and peanut butter chocolate flavors. The company is also tapping into the nut butter craze with new almond butter and peanut butter varieties of Nature Valley granola cereals. I'm Bruce Vail with Your Money Now on 1500 ESPN.
Give us 30 minutes, and we'll give you everything Cubs.
What is slashing? Slashing is like that.
Jess Myers now joins the Ride with Royce
Right now!
for this edition of the Hockey Half Hour.
That's Tom Chorske sitting in with the Ride with Royce, and as you just heard, Jess Myers is joining me. We're going to continue our hockey conversations, and as we came in there, the bumper from Slapshot, which is just a classic, obviously.
If you ever want to get really annoyed, sit by Judd Zilgad and I at a hockey game, because that's just pretty much all we do.
The banter of...
Yeah, the Slapshot lines we throw back and forth.
Right.
He and I sat next to each other on a plane to the Frozen Four in 2014 when the Gophers were last in the championship game. The people sitting by us weren't happy by the time we landed because it was just a lot of talk about...
Right. You go to the box, feel shame.
Yeah, a lot of
penalty.
that stuff. Yeah.
But, well, so along the lines of that sophomoric humor and funny stuff and pranks, we off air, we were talking about pranks.
Okay, so here's my favorite locker room prank story. Tom Reed, who we all know very well as not only a bar owner, but a great hockey player
and longtime broadcaster.
Longtime broadcaster. He tells the story. He's playing for the North Stars. This is mid-'70s. Okay, so fashions weren't great anyway in the 70s. You see some bad stuff when you look at those archive photos. Tom shows up at practice and he's wearing a pair of white linen pants. Okay. Even in the mid-'70s.
It's a winter sport.
I know. But even in the mid-'70s, this was the object of some teasing among his teammates about, hey, Tom, nice pants, So he goes out for practice. He said, in retrospect, he should have known something was up because as practice is going on, every now and then, like 2 guys would leave the ice and then come back. And he didn't.
Which would never happen in this day and age.
You don't
just leave practice.
Right.
But anyway.
He gets back to the locker room after an hour on the ice or whatever, and the entire team had autographed his pants. Now, two things about that. Number one, they probably looked better with the signatures. And the other thing I'm thinking of, even mid-70s North Stars, who are not a great team, can you imagine what a sports memorabilia collector would pay today for a pair of autographed Minnesota North Stars, 1973 linen pants?
Instantly went up in value.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I don't know how Tom got home that day, but apparently he just wore his autographed pants.
Well, hockey players can be, like I said, they're funny, they're pranksters, and they can be brutal too. You'd come on the bus with a new suit or a new jacket, and guys would be like, "Oh, nice horse blanket," or "Yeah, my horse wants his blanket back." And then if you fell asleep on the plane, they'd cut your tie off. And then if you don't have a tie on, that's a $25 fine. So you get double whammy. You have to go buy a new tie and pay the fine. It's
the line I always heard when somebody would show up with a new suit, especially if it was a bigger guy. I was like, "Hey, that's a great suit. Does it come in your size?" I don't know. A little harsh, but anyway.
There's
well, and in all seriousness, so much more is made of hazing and things like that can be damaging to people. I mean, Bruce Boudreau has been very open about the fact that he was treated brutally when he was a rookie.
Was I
in the WHA and in the NHL. I mean,
yes.
and I mean downright mean stuff.
I got spray painted, and purposely on parts of my upper torso, so that you'd have to use like alcohol rubs to get the paint off. And
oh my goodness!
It was very raw at the end of it.
You and I talked a little bit about you being an American playing on the Montreal Canadiens and in their organization in French-speaking places. There had to be that had to be different for you. I mean, just kind of more even more like an outsider.
Well, yeah, and it worked a little bit both ways because there was Anglos, as they would call English-speaking hockey players, and at least the year I got there, they had enough English guys that wanted to haze the young French rookie, and they got after him pretty good. And then I would have almost rather gone first because after the French guys saw what the English hockey players did, Chris Chelios,
not to name names,
no, I mean, a great teammate, great captain, great hockey player, but he did a good job on this young Frenchman, and so then I got it back. So it was
that was an interesting time for the Canadiens organization too. I remember the famous Sports Illustrated story in about 84, 85 about the fact that guys like Chelios and Tom Curvers were making their way into that organization.
Ludwig.
Yeah, and for the first time, they were kind of moving away from being French Canada's team and kind of broadening their horizons a little bit.
Not just having more English-speaking Canadians, for that matter. They were now dipping into American colleges. So, thankfully, those guys paved the way for me and other college players, and we've seen the game grow from there. But it was an interesting time. But it was a heck of a organization.
Still love seeing Canadiens fans wearing like a Brian Giunta jersey or something like that. All these American guys they bring in, I just love it.
Yeah, well, that's how the game has changed. Well, what else is on your mind for hockey today? What are you thinking?
The thing that I'm excited about, and we talked a little bit off air, the World Junior Tournament. Is getting more and more renowned in the United States. I mean, I'm a USA Hockey guy. I do a lot of stuff for USA Hockey Magazine. This is a huge deal pretty much everywhere except here, but I will say it's becoming a bigger deal in the United States. And opening game is tonight, USA versus Denmark, which should be a game that they shouldn't struggle with. A lot of connections here. Casey Middlestead, who Gopher fans know very well, is generally the top line center on this team. Bob Motzko, the St. Cloud State coach, is coaching Team USA second year in a row. Now that's rare. Generally, this is kind of a plum for guys who have paid their dues with USA Hockey, and they do a different coach every year. It was Don Lucia a couple years ago. Bob Motzko won a gold medal last year with Team USA in Canada. And the thinking was, you know what? It's not broken. Why fix it? This guy has found a formula that worked. So Bob's coaching the team again this year. He's a good friend of ours, a guy we know very well. Picked 5 UMD Bulldogs for the team, which shocked a lot of people. He brought 5 guys into camp, and they thought, well, he's not going to keep all of them. Wound up keeping all 5 guys, including Joey Anderson from Roseville, who's the captain of Team USA. So it's a rare situation for the Americans to go in where they're the prohibitive favorite and they're the defending champions and the team everybody's looking to kind of be the one this year.
Yeah, and I had Jim Johansson on last week when I was here. He's the general manager and has been for a long time. And I asked him that, why did you typically the coaching staff changes,
Right.
and that's probably it. You win a gold medal, and you've got 3 coaches. The other 2, one being Grant Patolny, who people will remember, former Gopher hockey player and former Gopher assistant coach, has spread his wings and is now head coaching at Northern Michigan, and Greg Brown, who I tried out for the 88 Olympic team with. We were roommates.
Boston College,
Boston College,
great
right?
player.
So
Yep.
yeah, good player and even better person, super, nice guy, gentleman. So I know those guys. That's kind of one of my connections. And some people have said, well, why is it such a big deal, or juniors? But it is growing bigger and bigger, and they've done a nice job, I guess, from the sports business side of it, marketing it.
Yes,
it's a
absolutely.
huge deal in Canada. As a player, I played in 1986, and when it was in, we talked about it. It was in. Tell me where it was.
Hamilton, Ontario.
Well,
yeah.
we rotated around from Hamilton to London, and I think Sudbury. So it was like
so
3.
kind of that corridor between
that
Detroit
corridor.
and Toronto. Yeah.
Exactly. And it was an exciting time then too, and we ended up taking a bronze,
Okay.
which was a little.
Who was your coach? You remember?
Was it Dave Peterson? I think it was Dave Peterson.
Okay. Yeah, and a guy who wound up coaching, in the Olympics a couple times.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so he was
Minneapolis guy.
Yeah, Minneapolis Southwest, where I went to high school.
Absolutely,
He had vacated to become an Olympic coach, but it was a really exciting time, and it was pretty cool for me. And how I explain it is it's like an Olympic experience, because you play Finland, you play Sweden, you play Czechoslovakia. At that time, we played Russia, like the junior Red Army. So it wasn't just it was the Soviet Union. But anyway, so that's a big tournament coming up tonight. They're playing Denmark.
And the tournament's in Buffalo. So
Tournament's in Buffalo. And then on the marketing side, growing the game, and they're going to put some money in their coffers, going to be outside.
they're going to play one of their games
Stadium.
outside.
A big one against Canada.
Yeah, that's great.
I think Friday night.
So that's what I'm looking forward to.
All right. Well, when we come back, we can continue this conversation. Tom Chorske with Jess Myers and The Ride with Royce.
Getting you caught up on the week in pucks. It's the Hockey Half Hour with Jess Myers.
Combination that requires the highest level of conditioning, speed, creativity.
On the Ride with Royce.
Tom Chorske in for Patrick Royce, and I'm here with Jess Myers, and we've been talking hockey. We're going to continue talking hockey. Jess, I was looking at the local fish wrap and the annual. What would you get your sports team for Christmas?
All we want for Christmas.
All we want for Christmas is, and so when we're talking Minnesota Wild, the suggestion in this one was patience. We got to be patient with this team, and I guess that means maybe let them get healthy again, and hopefully not run into injuries or illness, and find some stability in their lines and stability in their game. Your take?
Here's kind of where I am with the Minnesota Wild. I cover this team. I've been following this team forever.
Sure.
My father for Christmas got me a pair of Winnipeg Jets sleep pants. So I mean, I don't know if fans up north have given up on this team or what, but patience is a good way to put it. And the
Do you think that's good? You think it'll pay off? You think there's something there for? I mean, in your opinion,
patience in this sense, this team is kind of in the thick of things. This division is not very good. It's not like it was a year or two ago, where a team like Chicago could just run away with it. So you've got, you're in the thick of the race for the playoffs. But keep in mind, you're doing that without Parise, and you're doing that now without Dubnyk. If somebody would have said, take those two guys out of the lineup and you'll still be in the thick of things, I think you're thinking, well, we're okay. So if you can be patient enough where those two guys can get back, and now with Nino Niederreiter, we still don't really know what that situation is. Yeah, and how long he's going to be out. But, it's tough to preach patience because it seems like, not to pick on one guy, but Charlie Coyle. We keep waiting for him to kind of take that next step and become that, dominant first line guy that you're not going to go get a beer when his line's coming up. You want to see what they're going to do. He's just not there yet. And I feel like there's been a lot of patience with guys like that, that keep showing flashes, but not the consistent every night stuff.
Yeah. So there's the patience with individual players, and then, patience with the club or with the team and with the lineup. And there's some validity to that. And as a former player, if you did survive kind of, either an injury or a slump or whatever, it does help you. Adversity does help make you stronger, right? That's just a human nature philosophy or phenomena. But when they do come back, it's possible that Parisi and Dubnyk come back about the same time, and maybe Nino Niederreiter.
Sure.
Now that sometimes how things happen matter too. That's a pretty big shot in the arm.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen, when Dubnyk came here the first time, we've seen what just the infusion of a goalie can do when you get a little more confidence and a little more relaxed when you have a guy that you trust back there. Darcy Kemper's a great goalie. I mean, he's proving that again in Los Angeles, but the team had lost confidence in him.
Which they don't have with Stalock. Stalock's a different deal, don't you think?
And Stalock's a guy who's out there, playing with the puck and doing stuff like that he's always done throughout his career. But when you get that confidence and you get that feeling that, this guy's got my back, we're covered, we're good, the defenseman can do a little bit more with the puck. They can take a little bit more risks. They can, fire a shot that they think maybe if this gets blocked, okay, this guy will bail me out. And if it doesn't get blocked, it's going to the net and we have a chance to score. If you get that kind of shot in the arm, that kind of confidence, and then Parisi, I mean, we all know about him, the motor that just never quits with him. Yeah. There's that debate: is he skill-wise on the downside of his career, being in his 30s now? Have we seen his best days? I don't know about that. We'll have to see what he looks like when he comes back, because back surgery is a serious deal. I mean,
yeah, that's probably the more important thing. I think. Skill-wise, he's working on his craft all the time. I see him out there before practice starts, and he does specific things that are skill-related around the net. If his if his skill level drops, I think he's the type of player that will adapt, although he scores most of his goals from 12 feet in anyway. So that's probably not going to change. And if provided his back stays strong enough and he can continue to battle, I don't think his production will drop off a lot.
Too, the type of game he plays, like you talk about, around the net, you're getting cross-checked all the time. Guys are trying to move you out. I mean, the funniest line that way I ever heard, our old pal Kerry Eads, a longtime coach, played at North Dakota. He always said, I was a pretty good player from the crease in, because he would just run the goalie over to get to the net.
Right. That's old-time hockey. So, but I do think if these guys come back, and around the same time, and then going forward, they don't experience any other injuries of significance, there's a chance that patience will pay off. But last year we saw some players have some great years, that maybe some of their best, and we might not get that this year from Mikko Koivu or Jason Zucker. Right now is kind of quieted down a little bit, but what do you think?
I still think Jason Zucker is just such a key catalyst for this team. So the one thing that I guess kind of hurts this team, I think, is there's not that Alex Tuck or somebody like that waiting in the minors that everybody says, oh, we got to get this guy up. We got to see this guy.
Expansion picked up some of those guys.
The cupboard seems pretty bare right now as far as who's the next wave. So that would concern me if I were this team's GM. Who is that next round, that next group you're looking for? And I don't know if we've seen that yet.
Yep, that's a good point. When we come back, Jess and I will wrap up this segment of Hockey Talk, and it's Tom Chorske sitting in for Patrick Royce. Tom Chorske back in with the Ride with Royce. And Jess Myers and I are sitting here for a final segment, short one, but we'll touch on high school hockey. The Schwann's Cup is going on right now.
I was over there this morning. My son's team is playing in the Open Division, and tonight,
as was
big
I.
game.
We were both there, and we didn't know it, but we got and one game in the books that we maybe want to mention. St. Thomas Academy took it to Burnsville 3-rip. Peyton Matsui with all 3 goals for St. Thomas, and assisted by Ray Christie on 2 of them. Ray Christie was my centerman in high school, so that's his son, Ray Jr. So congrats to them. Tonight, a couple big games. Edina is taking on Minnetonka, which will be the feature one. That'll be a big one
Edina team
at Ritter. And before them, Centennial is playing Hill Murray, so that's another good matchup of Hill Murray taking on Centennial. But the Edina team is good. They've got, I don't know off the top of my head how many D1 players, but they've got a bunch.
Averaging 8 goals a game. You think that's good, huh?
Well, they've played a couple of weaker teams, but tonight will be their true test. It's over at Ritter. It'll be a big game between the Skippers and the Hornets. Well, thanks, Jess.
It hurts me to say this, but good luck, Hornets, man.
We'll see. Well, thanks for joining me, Jess. Good talking hockey with you. Tom Chorske in for Patrick Royce. This is The Ride with Royce.
Geico asks, how would you love a chance to save some money on insurance? Of course you would. And when it comes to great rates on insurance, Geico can help. Like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV. Even help with homeowners or renters coverage. Plus, add an easy-to-use mobile app, available 24-hour roadside assistance, and more, and Geico is an easy choice. Switch today and see all the ways you could save. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com or contact your local agent today.